My dear brothers and sisters here at Holy Cross, we now continue our series on Paul's letter to the Galatians with chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. And in verses 6 and 7, Paul says, "And because you are children, God has sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, crying, 'Abba, Father.' So you are no longer a slave, but a child. And if a child, then also an heir through God." Paul continues with this idea of what is our identity? Now, the first part is this idea of because we have been given the Spirit of Jesus Christ, and it has been planted in our hearts, we can now cry, "Abba, Father." Now, that's impressive enough, but really we have to understand why this sounds important to Paul. And that is, Paul is saying, remember what it was that Jesus said that was so revolutionary? Yes, God was Yahweh to Jesus, but God was something more than just Yahweh to Jesus. God was Abba, or Father. Abba being the Hebrew or the Aramaic, and Father, Abba, Father, which is to say, look, the relationship that Jesus gives us to Yahweh, to God, is now new. Jesus brings us to God as Father. Now, that might not sound revolutionary to you or to me in the 21st century, but indeed, in the first century, this was very revolutionary. Because what it was saying is that God indeed cares for us. God indeed loves us. And not just generically, but loves us as a father, as a parent, and hopes for the best, pulls for the best, yearns for the best for us. That indeed, we are of the utmost importance. So important that Paul says, look, when you cry Abba and Father from your very heart, you're no longer a slave, but you're a child of the Father. And because you are a child of this Father, then you are also an heir through God, which is to say, when you enter into this new relationship with God through Jesus Christ, you become something so much more than just believing in God. No, this is a living relationship in which God sees us as God being Father and us being not only a child or a slave, but an heir, as somebody who receives this wonderful benefit. It is not just a benefit of gold and silver, of stocks and bonds given to us, or a fancy house, or even a membership to a golf club or something. No, this is something so much more important. We are heirs who are inheriting salvation, love, God's grace, and immortality. Not immortality in some vague or general way, we're just going to live on, but we're entering into the household of God, in which God knows our name through Jesus Christ, in which God yearns for us and calls out to us, in which we call out to God, Abba, Father. It is this identity that Paul wants us to cherish. It's not given just to be thrown away. It marks us off as different. Different now, because we now know who we come from and who we go back to, who has made us and what we have been made for, which is to receive and then give back the grace and love of God given to us in and through Jesus Christ. What that really begs the question is, so what does that mean for us? And what I think it means for us is that it asks us to change what we are rooted in, what we see as important in this world. Do we see our world really as the only place where we get our sustenance and nourish? Or do we see God as where we get what we need for this life? God not just as some God out there, but God as Father, Abba. Amen, and God bless.